right. I think we're live on YouTube. Hi guys, Dennis here. Today I have a very special guest from a beautiful place. You can see in the background, sun is shining and it's warm where you are. Vin Armani, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dennis. Thank you for having me on.
Good to hear. I mean, Vin, I've been following you for quite a while. I mean, you've done some amazing things for the cryptocurrency space, and one of the main projects which got me interested you developed was Context.io. Is that basically your main project these days? Maybe before we start talking about that, tell a little bit about yourself, how you got into crypto, and what you're doing, what you're working on right now.
So I first encountered Bitcoin probably sometime around 2011. I think I've gone back. I found an old hard drive recently that had the old Qt client on it from like late 2011, and it looks like I had installed it and started trying to mine or something, and obviously mined nothing. And I think that I put it to the side. I understood what it was supposed to be. And then I found myself through basically the 2010s in a very interesting situation. My background is as a software developer, but I got the opportunity to be on this to be the star of this very cool TV show that filmed in Las Vegas. And while I was there, Vegas is a big cash town, very big, as you could assume. You've got, but not just the gamblers, but you've also got, the people in the clubs, people who earn cash tips. A lot of the industry there is all done in cash tips. Strippers, escorts, sort of just like fixers who will like take you around and do cool things. All of that. And so Bitcoin started to bubble up, and it's very much a small town. And people around me started talking about Bitcoin, and I was experimenting with it. I was making a lot of cash, paper cash myself, and exploring the options of how to secure it. And so in late 2012, I was like, oh, let me try this Bitcoin thing, and it was about $15, and bought a whole bunch, and played around with it, and thought it was cool, but was not really in a development mode at that time. I had kind of put software to the side. I was doing the TV thing. Producing some movies as well, and working on businesses in Vegas. And so I sort of let it sit, and then lo and behold, the next time I looked up, 9-10 months later, it was at 1,000. And I was like, oh, what is this? This is crazy. This doesn't even make any sense. And
so you cashed out, right?
Cashed out.
You see this? Nice. Okay.
Absolutely. I cashed everything out. Okay. And had a very, very good Christmas. Let's just say that. I spent it in Cabo San Lucas, thanks to that, and had some great gifts for the family and all of that. Bought some new DJ gear. And then I really didn't pay attention to it again until about 2014, when I started working on seeing if I could do some gaming projects and working with like Internet of Things stuff, some Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, famous Raspberry Pi. And just because I had been introduced to some people in the gaming space, a lot of the manufacture of slot machines and poker games and all of that is actually done in Vegas as well. And the tech that they use is like from the 80s. If you open up a brand new slot machine, it looks like an old Atari, Space Invaders inside. It's really old. And so I said, wow, I bet that this could be done differently. And it was at that time that I sort of rethought about Bitcoin and said, maybe there's some things that could be done here in terms of storing the transactions and using it as a ledger and whatnot. And so I started to pick it back up and experiment with it. And at that time, what made it interesting to me was that while there weren't a lot of tools for developers, the fees were basically zero in many cases. So depending upon what you were trying to do, you could actually get transactions to confirm in 2014 with literally zero miner fee. And I said, okay, this is interesting. And as I started actually using it in these applications and building it out, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And it was right, as I was doing that and working on other stuff, and this was kind of a hobby, I was working on it from time to time. And then probably maybe about a year and a half after that, probably like mid 2015, I started to notice that, I picked it back up. I'd been working on some other things, and I started to notice that I couldn't get those 0-fee transactions to go through anymore. And I started to watch the fees just go up, 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 up. And this was around the time that I was being a little more vocal. I saw that the TV show was going to it was on its last legs. We did 6 seasons, which is a long time to do a TV show, especially on a major network in the US. And so I started to become a little more vocal about my libertarian views in public, which was something that I wasn't going to do while I was still taking a paycheck on a TV show. Needless to say, Hollywood is, as people know, is a pretty left-leaning place, and so libertarians are few and far between, and are certainly persona non grata in a lot of circles. And so I wasn't going to sacrifice a paycheck, even though I had held these views, and during that time they were becoming even more solidified, especially living in Vegas. Nevada is a very libertarian state, and Vegas is a very libertarian town, and always has been.
Nevada, didn't they legalize the marijuana just recently as well?
Yeah, they have legalized marijuana. It's an open carry state. There's no income tax, which is rare for states. It's very business friendly. There's no corporate tax if your business makes, I believe, less than $40 million now in revenue, which is a lot of businesses, right? So it has sort of all of the things. And if people remember, it was also the place that the Bundy family, I don't know if this story reached all the way to Europe, but there was a family that the US federal government seized the cattle of this longtime cattle ranching family in Clark County, Nevada, which is where Las Vegas is. It's on the border of California. And they said that he had been grazing his cattle illegally on the king's land, right? We know this from the sort of medieval times, right? Grazing on the king's land. Basically, that's what it was. And they seized his cattle. A lot of the cattle died. I mean, this is the middle of the desert. They basically penned them up, and basically his family and armed people, including the sheriff of the county and all the deputies, had an armed showdown with federal agents, and the federal agents basically retreated and gave back all the cattle. And this family then went on to become pretty famous, and then to start to fight a lot of these cases. There was a famous one, I believe it was Oregon, in a wildlife reserve. Somebody died and some other things, but they've won a lot of these cases. This is the same county that Las Vegas is in. So this is, obviously involved in what I was involved in and around these people and Bitcoin. All of this was growing inside of me. And so I started expressing my libertarian views a lot more. The show ended up doing 6 seasons and not getting renewed. And I started a podcast called the Vin Armani Show. And in that, I went through and explored cryptocurrency a lot more, just from a philosophical standpoint. I was still holding some. Ethereum was then coming up. I was interested in the things that were going on in the ICOs. This is late 2016, 2017. We were talking about it on the show, but I had given up on Bitcoin, actually. I just didn't see really a use for it. The fees at that point were just ridiculous, and I was participating in sort of the libertarian community and seeing the block size debate go on. And then it was in late 2017, so probably September, October, after the Bitcoin Cash fork had happened. And I was talking with my business partner, who had been involved in, with my podcast and everything. And he said, man, you've been talking about all these old libraries that you had and all these things, sort of the same story that I told you. And he said, maybe you might want to check out this Bitcoin Cash thing. Like, I think it's back. And I said, oh, whatever, I'll check it out. And, it took me literally 30 minutes to alter my code so that it would, so that I would be on using the Bitcoin Cash blockchain instead, and fired up a node. And sure enough, like it was right back to where it was. And that was the point at which I said, okay, well, let's try out some applications. And the first application that really came to mind where I was like, I could do something big here with these low fees was Cointext. And so that was, you know, two and something years ago. Cointext is an SMS-based wallet. It's in 42 countries, including in Germany. It doesn't require an internet connection. It doesn't require a software wallet. You can do everything through SMS commands. And you know, you're able to access and control your own private key as well. So it's at this point, it pretty much, you know, we've done what we've needed to do over the last 2 years. It pretty much runs as a you know, kind of on autopilot at this point.
Is it growing? I mean, I've used it. I've sent Bitcoin Cash through Cointext to a couple of people just to test it. I mean, it works fine. The fees are, I think you get like a 1 cent fee or whatever it is. In Germany, I mean, we have a functioning system. Like everyone is using cards, euros, and whatever, and there's rarely a need for something like this. I mean, some people say that the argument, if the internet goes down, what happens to your cryptocurrency?
That's not, yeah, yeah. It's not, that's not, I know what you're asking. And I think that, you know, to be honest, from the beginning, the idea with Cointext was really for it to be an adoption engine, right? For it to be a way that the easiest way to introduce somebody to cryptocurrency. That's always what I said, right? That hopefully, you know, and this is what most people talk about, right? That it's like, okay, I sent somebody who had no Bitcoin, I sent it to them, and then you can tell them, okay, download a wallet, because they're going to ask, well, what can I do with this, right? Download the wallet and then send it from Cointext into the wallet, right?
I used to do that, you know, like in 2016, I used to onboard people. I said, give me $20, I'm going to send you the $20 in crypto. And it was in 2016, it was still fast and it was still fairly cheap to do so. In 2017, I couldn't do that anymore. It's like if someone was giving me $20, like at the end of 2017, it's like it was ridiculous, couple dollars fees, and it's like why would I even pay 20 cents to send $20? And that opened my eyes for the use case, and I never really understood the whole digital gold use case, because I want to use it. And if I see all those people talking about digital gold, I mean, I understand gold is a huge market, gold is a hedge, but it has lots of history. But if you look at gold and Bitcoin, I don't think you can really compare it, because the one is like a useful metal which has been used all around the world for different purposes. And I don't know what's the use of having some numbers in your phone, in your wallet, so the dollar value or euro value can increase. What's your end game? You're going to cash out at one point? I don't think that's not what I signed up for. You know, it's like that's not where the revolution happens. I don't think so.
Well, and I think the important part about fees and I think that this really goes to what Cointext, if anything, was the beginning of a journey for me in terms of dealing with some concepts. So one interesting thing about Cointext is the revenue model of our business. And this was quite a different revenue model from any wallet that was really around. So most wallets, if you ask, well, how do the developers get money to develop this wallet? Most Bitcoin wallets, as it is right now, you have some where they're like, well, it's donations or whatever, because this is an open source project and we don't take any money. Okay, well, that'll take you so far in terms of having a sustainable project. It's all good until the donations run out or until you have something better to do with your time. And most great developers, it's no problem for them to find a job doing, making good money doing something that they actually enjoy. And so it's hard to prioritize it that way. In other cases, wallets that are more established, so you might talk about something like, I think Jacks were the first people to really move with this business model. Coinomi is a big one. The Bitcoin.com wallet. It's that you have these sort of ancillary services that you've kind of built into the wallet and you take a commission. So that used to be with many wallets, it used to be Shapeshift. Now Sideshift is in the Bitcoin.com wallet. Some wallets will have like Changely, or you can purchase with your credit card, or you can buy Amazon gift cards, or one of these different things, and then you sort of take a commission as the wallet manufacturer, which is fine, except, you know, some huge percentage of the people who are using your wallet are not going to do any of those things, right? They're just simply not. And so the question that really comes to mind is, how do you have a non-custodial wallet? It's one thing if it's an exchange, right? Because if the exchange has your money, they can always, when you say withdraw, they just say, well, we're just going to keep a little bit, right? We'll just keep a little bit, and that's our commission, and that's our business model. And that is the exchange business model, is that when you withdraw, they're going to keep a little bit. So, but that's only with custodial. So the idea was, how can you be a non-custodial wallet and still have a revenue model where you can get paid on this kind of per transaction basis? And so because we are sort of that bridge with SMS, we had the opportunity, since we're fundamentally as a proxy writing, just as any wallet is, writing up the transaction. What we do is we take a small fee as a separate output. We don't keep any of your money. We take a small fee as a separate output in the transaction. So it all goes where it's going to go. It goes to your destination, it goes to the change, and then a little bit comes out to us. And this is so possible in Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin derivatives. And it was just something that no wallet had ever done. And I thought, this is a really weird, because it just makes total sense, right? The user agrees to the terms of service and says, yeah, okay. And the important thing about the fees is this: the only way that business model works is that the fees that are being paid to the miner have to be so small that you can take the difference as the business, right? So just as an example, if we're going to say that the market will hold, and like you said, let's say 1 cent, right? So you're like, 1 cent is reasonable. You said, I don't want to pay 20 cents. So you even gave sort of that signal, an example of, there's a band in here between 1 cent and 20 cents, right? Now, this is the band of profit. And for any business, this is your profit band. It's the price that the market will hold. You're willing to pay under 20, but over 1, right? That will be reasonable. And if it's lower, you might do more. And if it's over, you might do a little bit less. But somewhere in between there, you're willing to pay. Okay. So here's the deal. If it's just about cost and revenue, it's just a simple profit model. There's a cost to sending a transaction on a Bitcoin network. If that cost is 20 cents, and the market will only hold 20 cents, you won't pay more than 20 cents, I can't make a profit. But if the cost is 1 cent and you'll pay 20 cents, I can make 19 cents of profit. So the reason to build your business, if you use this model, which I've been writing about and calling a non-custodial financial service, the reason to build your business on a chain that has low fees is not ideological. It's not about a community. It's not about any of these things. It's about one thing and one thing only: profit. Profit. And it's the same transaction, because look, if I send $100 in 100 US or 100 euro, let's say, in a BTC transaction, and I send 100 euro in a BCH transaction, you know what? There's about equal liquidity, right? I can use my BitPay card and I can do either one of them. I can any exchange that I can exchange for fiat to actually go out to euros. Most of them will do it in BTC or BCH, or I can exchange for very inexpensive on the exchange itself. There's no security difference, because you can't show me somebody who has lost their money transacting on BCH. You can't show me that. So the only reason to not do it that way, or to not build your business on it, is because you're not thinking about profit. You're thinking about ideology. And so
is it not only ideology? I mean, if you look at the Bitcoin maximalists, and I mean, they seem to be getting more aggressive, and for some reason it really sounds like a religion. It's like, you either like my religion and and BTC and everything else is a scam, and I don't want to hear about it. And it's so weird, you know. 2016 there was a different energy when I got into crypto. It's like, was crypto against the rest. Now it's crypto against crypto. BTC. I don't know. It's crazy, and I don't see really how this is going to work out. And what's your take on the whole? Like, do you think in 100 years or 200 years this might be a religion like BTC? Hail Satoshi.
Religion now. I think it's a religion now. I mean, I've been saying that. It was interesting. About two Octobers ago. So I guess this would have been October 2018. Krista Rose, who people know from Bitcoin Uncensored, him and Junseth for years doing their thing, and Daniel Krawitz, Nakamoto Institute.
He's BSV. He's a BSV supporter, right?
Oh yes, he moved BTC, BCH, BSV. Both of these guys I respect immensely, and in terms of the philosophical and sociological underpinnings of Bitcoin, these guys are literally prophets. I mean, Daniel Krawitz is the one who coined the term hyper-Bitcoinization, for crying out loud, right? Okay. So wrote about so many other things. So we did a little event in New Hampshire. Alongside the Free State, Bruce Fenton's Free State Blockchain Conference. I believe it was his first one. And yeah, the question came up about religion. And I think we all agreed that Bitcoin has if it's not a religion, it has all of the things, right? So I don't know necessarily what those things are. Are you there? Did I lose you?
Yes. Yeah, just the connection was just gone for a second. I don't know what happened.
All good. Yeah. So I don't necessarily know what all of those things are, but I think that there is it shares so many things with religion that you get this sort of tribalism, these sort of sects. I used to think it was a bad thing. I think now that it's probably a good thing because it shows that people value these ideas. But I think even more important is that you have a lot of time, energy, and money being spent on the furtherance of BTC in particular. And as I look at it, as someone who works on Bitcoin all day, who has earned his income in cryptocurrency for years now, almost exclusively all of my income, I don't see anything there in terms of utility for BTC. Even looking over the last year, the price has basically been flat at $10,000.
Hodling is utility.
I mean, that's interesting to me. It's interesting to me that, the price could not move fundamentally. It's fundamentally been at $10,000. I mean, really, if we go back to basically the 2018 crash to the point where it got to $10,000, right? It hasn't, for any period of time, it's not sustained above $10,000 since then. And yeah,
you think it can go back above 10K, 20K? I mean, if you look at the all-time high, close to 20K, it's like it was ridiculous to transact on the network. I mean, that's where when the altcoin season started, Bitcoin dominance started dropping. Do you think that's going to happen again? Because everyone is talking about the next 4-year cycle. The halving just occurred. We're going to go to 200,000, 500,000. We're going to the moon, and everyone is expecting that. And I feel like if everyone is expecting that, the majority is wrong most of the time, But
well, we have a fundamental problem now, right? We have a fundamental problem that we did not have, let's say, 6 months ago when we talk about Bitcoin price. And the fundamental problem that we have is these central banks are printing like crazy. And so Bitcoin being tied to the US dollar, in some ways, Bitcoin going to 20,000 may not be an increase in value of Bitcoin, but a decrease in value of the US dollar, right? So I think that the metric of number go up when you have this, and I mean, it's unprecedented, right? When you have this unprecedented level of money printing to where the memes are money printer go brr, and we see the guy going brr, That's what's happening. I mean, it puts 2008 to absolute shame. And so, which interestingly enough, you know, the F2 Pools Coinbase message essentially said that, right?
But if you look at 2008, I mean, they created lots of money, and this time they created way more money. But the difference is we had a lockdown period, still are in lockdown. I mean, tax income is plummeting. I mean, in Germany, the forecast for tax income is it's really grim. You know, it's like they are looking at a loss of hundreds of billions of dollars, and I'm pretty sure America and all the other countries are looking at the same picture. I mean, it's like huge amounts of money being created, a loss of revenue on the other side, lots of unemployment, and I mean, stocks are still going strong. It's like nothing adds up really, and the situation is different. And Bitcoin operating at capacity. I mean, there's so many weird things happening these days. It's really hard to predict anything.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, I just left California in January. The Treasury in California, now California, if taken by itself out of the United States, is the 5th biggest economy in the world. So and they have a onerous and burdensome tax code. Let's just say that they get their fair share of taxes, and they've been, as you can imagine, with Hollywood, Silicon Valley, you know, strong agriculture, strong manufacturing. I mean, Tesla's there, and other manufacturers are there. The aerospace industry is there. It is generally been a booming economy, even in some very, very difficult times. In January, the governor's office, along with the Treasury, predicted that they would have a $5.4 billion surplus that they would be able to add to their rainy day fund, which has been significant. That was January. So last week, they announced that now they are expecting a $54.5 billion deficit.
Who's going to pay for that, huh?
I mean, it's insane. It's insane. And you know, when and California is talking of, you know, they're borrowing money from the federal government. This is, I recall being, I'm 40 now. I recall being in my early 20s and getting sort of swept up in I'm a 6th generation Californian, and sort of getting swept up in at that time there was a strong Free the Bear movement, so a strong secessionist movement in California, at least a strong sentiment. And the reason was because California was paying for all the rest of the country. Kind of what Germany is to the EU, California has been to the United States for a very, 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 very long time. And it's just crazy to me to now look and see that sort of devastation in a place that is a hallmark of Western culture, really, that if you look at it, I mean, look at how many things have come out of California.
Right.
It's insane. The culture, you know, as I'm looking at these beaches shut down, as I'm looking at Venice Beach,
Crazy, right?
I looked at bulldozers putting sand over the skate park on Venice Beach.
I saw that.
Venice Beach is where skateboarding was invented. Invented. The place where skateboarding was invented, which is a cultural phenomenon around the world. They're bulldozing it over. And there's something going on economically that nobody is prepared for, that nobody could have imagined.
It hasn't trickled down really to the average person, right? I mean, they're still kind of. Huh?
It hasn't opened. See, because we don't have the signal of how bad the economy is. That's the unique aspect of what these lockdowns have done economically. You know, we need to be able to have price discovery. We need to be able to have these signals. We need to be able to make predictions. It's the reason why the stock market is going strong. And it's one of the reasons I believe that a lot of these countries have been reticent to open up. the reason that they're staying locked down is because so long as they stay locked down, people can't see how many businesses have actually gone out of business. They just assume they're all locked down and unable to open. Oh, no, no, no. If they were to, and this is, we're seeing this in the US as they start opening various places. My friend Nathan Stoltman, who does a channel called Lift the Veil, he was in Austin and they opened up a major shopping mall in Austin. The day that it opened up, he walked through with the camera. 90% of the stores were closed and the ones that were open were empty.
Yeah, even here in Germany, if you look at all the restaurants, I mean, they got hit very hard, and they have lots of things to like, I don't know, obligations when they want to open up. They have to do this distancing, and I mean, even if they open up, I don't think they will ever get back to their income they had before. Maybe they can make 50% of that if people come, which is another question. And they
50%, they're shutting, they're
yes,
closing their doors in a month or two.
Exactly.
Right?
So I mean, the whole thing is just playing out before our eyes, and that's why I think having a functional cryptocurrency as an alternative is the time where we can really shine. But if we imagine the whole world using crypto, I mean, we are not ready. I mean, not one single cryptocurrency is ready to onboard 100 million users, not even in I don't know, in weeks. I mean, BTC won't help. I mean, Bitcoin Cash can absorb some, maybe Digibyte, maybe Dash, and some others, but we are far from ready, you know. And
I think that one of my prediction is that cryptocurrencies will return back to their, let's say, spiritual roots. So, you know, when I first discovered Bitcoin and first got some, really one of the only places that you could spend it and one of the only reasons to have it was because of Silk Road and what was going on that particular site on the dark web, which, you know, my first time visiting it, I was absolutely blown away. I was blown away that there was this kind of a market. I mean, I think it's less important and less sensational about the fact that these were illicit drugs. I think what is sort of more impressive is that myself, having, you know, I've been a DJ since I was a teenager. I was involved in the early rave scene in California, the desert scene that became Burning Man, you know, and LA had a vibrant rave scene. I went to college in DC when it was the best scene in the US. So I had been exposed to, you know, a lot of different drugs of a lot of different kinds. And what I saw, and I knew sort of the culture and the history of quote unquote designer drugs, sort of the things that Alexander Shulgin, the inventor of MDMA, had also come up with and put into his very famous book, Pi Cow. And they were all for sale, which meant that a very high level of producer was operating in this space. Let's say a boutique level of producer, which told me that this currency had the opportunity to open up all kinds of innovation in markets that had previously not existed, that individuals who could produce these things, and again, highly skilled chemists is what we're talking about in this case. This is not somebody cooking methamphetamine in their bathtub. These are PhD level pharmaceutical biochemists who are doing this in their spare time, probably in their work labs, right? And that was an indication to me of something. And it was that here is an opportunity, just by simply having an uncensorable currency, to have a type of innovation that we hadn't even really imagined was even possible, and to unlock the human mind and human skill and ingenuity in these new ways. And I think that, or my prediction in this case is that, you know, as we see so much of the world now become a black market, as we see in many countries, you know, offering a haircut in your house might be enough to get the authorities knocking down your door. That we see that happening is an indication that Bitcoin's use case is back, and that it's a foregone conclusion that these individuals will discover this, and that now it won't be a matter of some chemist doing it with designer drugs, but it will become far more mainstream and mundane, and it will be somebody giving a haircut or doing nails.
You experienced that in Australia, right? I mean, you went to the Bitcoin Cash City. You experienced firsthand how it is to basically be able to live on Bitcoin Cash, because I think, was it Townsville or where the conference was? In Townsville. I mean, if you look on the map, there are hundreds of businesses accepting it, and you can solely live on cryptocurrency. How was that for you? Like, is it a different world if you are able to do that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I had spent a year in New Hampshire, and the guys from AnyPay and the Bitcoin Shop and the Free State Project, you know, I had gotten a chance to spend a lot of cryptocurrency, but more in informal networks. So there would be kind of farmers markets where there would be local farmers, and for, you know, we got a good percentage of all of our meat and produce and all of that direct from the farmers, and they would accept, you know, 20 different cryptocurrencies. Whatever you had, they'd take it. And that was, you know, because it had been there for a long time. I mean, Roger Ver actually first heard about Bitcoin on a radio program, Free Talk Live, that is out of Keene, New Hampshire. So which I now host on Saturdays from here. Saturdays here, Friday night in the US. But it was very, very different being able to, I think the thing that really, when I said, okay, this is really different, was when I was able, and we all were, to call a cab, have them come, take us to where we wanted to go, and the cab driver took Bitcoin Cash and knew exactly how to do it. That was a paradigm shift, right? That was kind of like that was the holy grail moment, really, you know, the cab driver moment, but then restaurants as well, and shops. So I think that we can move to that point, but I think that we're going to have this transition, like I say, where it moves back to kind of helping to support the black market in some ways, except the black market is now a whole bunch of things that used to be completely white market. Yeah. So
I mean, with Bitcoin Cash, I mean, I'm pretty bullish on Bitcoin Cash. I mean, lots of people in Germany say, I just see one comment here in the live chat say, BCH is a fake, and am I being paid by the BCH sock puppets or whatever, you know? It's like, if you don't like it, don't use it. Yeah, you can spend $2, which is the average fee now on BTC, if you want to use it. But I know you don't want to use it, so don't use it. But what makes me bullish on Bitcoin Cash is the announcement from Roger. You know, I spoke to Roger a couple, I know, a week or two, not too long ago, and he was telling me about, I mean, everyone knows, like, he's trying to integrate a cash shuffle into the Bitcoin.com wallet, which will give Bitcoin Cash privacy features which are unmatched, really. And this is a currency which has a user base which want to use this currency, and having this privacy feature, I think this is going to open up a whole new market and whole new economic activity for the whole ecosystem. I think that could be a turning point for people, because this is now a non-custodial wallet with privacy by default, and you can spend it in hundreds of thousands of places worldwide. We have Townsville, we have in Slovenia hundreds of outlets, and I think that's something which will open up really new use cases. So what's your take on the privacy and anonymity coins?
Yeah, I think privacy is very important. One of the caveats that I would say that people should think about when they think about privacy, and I think this is particularly true for entrepreneurs, is that financial privacy and financial reputation are mutually exclusive concepts. And what I mean by that is, if your financial transactions are private in that no third party or anyone else can know that they happened, they can't also constitute financial reputation for you. And when we talk about financial reputation, probably the greatest example would be something like a credit score, right? So the aspect of the thing about a credit score is there's no financial privacy there. Granted, if I want to go and I want to pay cash, I'm here in Saipan. If I want to go down here, there's a guy fishing and I want to pay him cash for a fish, that's perfectly fine. Or even if he wants to extend me some credit personally, right? And I say, oh, I'll pay you tomorrow, you know, and then I do pay him tomorrow. I get no benefit from that, right? I certainly don't get the benefit that I get when I pay off my credit card every month, right? So, and this is important, right? Access to credit, especially for entrepreneurs, access to credit is incredibly, I mean, this is the thing, right? This is the source of growth, is access to credit. You have to have it. And so, of course, it's a double-edged sword. You've got to be responsible with it. You can't overextend yourself, as the governments are doing right now. But it's also what allowed governments to grow. You know, when we talk about sovereign debt, and that's what the current economic system is based on. It's based on credit. It can be used properly. It can be used improperly. So, you know, that is something to consider, that if you want to build a global economy, you are going to need to have financial reputation. And this is actually something that has not been explored very well, I think, in Bitcoin, but something for which Bitcoin is perfectly suited, because I can cryptographically prove that I was the one who did any transaction. And I can do that on an opt-in basis, right? So I can, it's private until I want to opt in and say, yes, I did this. And on a grander scale, there are certainly some, and so I think privacy is great. I think that it's something that people should have the option to do. I honestly, I mean, as a Bitcoin developer, I will tell you that Bitcoin, even without any kind of cash shuffle, cash fusion, anything like that, depending on with BCH, with the number of transactions that are there, that you could tell me which one was mine. So it's already, you know, you can do things in terms of OPSEC, in terms of your on ramps and off ramps. Obviously, if you're paying for it with a credit card, you've left a paper trail. If you're moving it on KYC exchanges, you know, where you've given them all your information, technically you're leaving a paper trail. We saw that with Coinbase getting a John Doe summons from the FBI regarding, or from, I should say, from FinCEN.
Crazy as well, right?
And they gave over the information.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more about your own behavior. You know, for the use, I think it's fantastic. I think Cash Shuffle is great. I think Cash Fusion is great. I think if people want to use Monero, that's great. But I think in some ways it also gives people the impression that Bitcoin is not already private. It cannot already be used anonymously. And, you know, private or not, it still is uncensorable, which is, I think, the most important part about it. So it's like, even if you know how much money I have, take it, you know, take it.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of theories out there. I mean, it's a variety of people with different agendas, and I always tell people, I mean, if you don't like something, don't use it. Whatever. I mean, there's no benefit in putting other cryptocurrencies down. Focus on your stuff and whatever your way is. I mean, if you want to buy the whole meme and hope for prices to increase, to be honest, I mean, even if Bitcoin Cash prices didn't go crazy, it would still be useful, or Dash or Monero, you know. And the more utility there is, I'm pretty sure the price would rise eventually. But it's not necessary really to have a high price for this thing to be useful. And this is basically the only talk of the town these days. You know, how high does it go and whatever. And this is kind of sad, but that's the reality of what it is. And I think this crisis is going to show really the strength of cryptocurrency, I hope, because I mean, it's changing rapid pace. I don't know what's happening exactly countries in the world, but if you look here in Germany, more and more people are going on the streets saying the lockdown measures are too harsh and the virus isn't that bad, and look at the statistics. And some say, you're a conspiracy theorist. The others say, okay, we got to go to the streets. And like this, it's so crazy what is happening right now. And I'm pretty sure if we look back in maybe 20 years to this day, that 2020 was the way things changed forever, and hopefully for the better. I'm fully convinced now, other people strong enough, united enough to stop this totalitarian techno-fascist society, which is basically being implemented right in our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. And I mean, again, like looking back 20 years from now, it's going to be quite interesting to see how we see ourselves. And I guarantee we will see ourselves as having been foolish and naive, because of course it's 20 years later, right? You look back in hindsight, you're always foolish and naive 20 years later, right? That's just how it is. I think to your point about people being in these different cryptocurrency camps. I mean, before we started, you asked me, oh, well, are you in like the BCH, camp? Is that your thing or whatever? And that's always a hard one. I spend most of my development time working on Bitcoin Cash because I love Bitcoin, and the applications that I want to do. Bitcoin Cash is able to do all of those applications in ways that other ones aren't, because of the fees, different op codes, a larger op return, like the technical things, right? So it's more of like a choice, like if you're a stock car racer, that you're like, oh, do I take this?
But Vin, it's centralized. It's got checkpoints. It's Roger Ver,
Here's what I will say, as I said, I earn my income and have earned my income for years in cryptocurrency. All of my businesses accept cryptocurrency. So I have a newsletter called Counter Markets. We accept 20 different types of cryptocurrency. I've got my vodka. I accept 10 different kinds of cryptocurrency. I sell my books, and I accept, again, 20 different kinds of cryptocurrency. Now, I'll tell you that in accepting those, I've probably been paid in all 20, but on a monthly basis, as I look at, what profits I'm taking, it's basically BTC, and not in this order. It's usually BCH, then BTC, then Ethereum, then some Litecoin and some Dash, maybe a little Monero from time to time, and that's it. Like, that's all people are actually using in commerce. And granted, my products are rather more expensive. So, if you're paying $150 or whatever for a year subscription to Counter Markets, then yeah, BTC makes sense. Sure, no problem, right? So it's like, if it's $1 even for a fee, no problem. Right. So I take those and I put them in my wallet exactly as they are. And when I can spend them as they are, I spend them as they are. And so if it works, it works. The bottom line is I have no fear that the Dash in my Dash wallet that anything is going to happen to it. I mean, of course, the price could drop, but will I lose my coins? I own my keys. I have good OPSEC. I'm a pro at this. Do I have any fear whatsoever? None. How about for my Litecoin? None. How about for my Monero? None. No fear. BCH? None. BTC? None. So from there, it's just, which do you prefer for the application that you want, right? Now, for me, I look at, what would it be for BTC? I got in at 15. It went to 1,000. I did well. If it could do that on a consistent basis, then sure, I'd hold a whole lot of BTC. But I look at the price now, and I look at the price in 2018, and I see basically the same price, 10K, somewhere in that range. And if you can go back and search just in my tweets, and I've got years of history of me saying every single time, because I wanted to chronicle
this is
it.
The last time below 10K.
Last time below 10Ks, and it's years of saying it.
Yeah.
And so that tells you something, right? That tells you, well, if the use case is number go up and number hasn't gone up, am I an idiot? Like, what? Am I an idiot? Like, what am I doing? Because I could have literally, I mean, the people who bought at 20,000 at the all-time high could literally have just stuck $20,000 or 20,000 euro underneath their mattress, and they would have more in euro value right now than they would have if they had bought BTC and held it to now,
Sure.
or BCH, or anything, right? So it's like, I earn cryptocurrency. It's been fantastic. It gives me a lot of freedom, especially right now. People who are making their living in cryptocurrency right now, I mean, I'm not gonna like bust myself out, but like, needless to say, they have a lot of freedom when it comes to tax regimes around the world. Let's say that. They have a lot of freedom in terms of capital controls. In terms of,
you can cross the border with 10K, you got to report it. When you can cross the border with 100 million and nobody knows about it. Right?
Exactly. So it's like, the amount of freedom that you have, if this is the currency that you're using, if you're an early adopter now of actually using the currency, is unbelievable.
And even another thing is like, if you own the key, it doesn't really mean that you own the crypto. I always compare it to a car. You know, if I give someone the keys to my car, they have the keys, but is it their car? Yeah, I don't think so. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a whole new paradigm.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my last book is called Self-Ownership: The Foundation of Property and Morality.
Saw that, yeah.
And in that, I really address the question of what is ownership. It's something that I've been a follower of the Austrian School of Economics for a long time. It's actually something that they've never really, they sort of gloss over it. They just assume, yeah, ownership, you know, property is that which is owned. But it's like, well, what does it really mean to own something? And it hasn't been an issue until Bitcoin, right? Until we had this new weird sort of thing where we had to take this time and examine, like, well, what does it mean to own it? We can definitely say if you control the keys, then you control the ability to spend the Bitcoin. Do you own it? Who knows? Like, and if you don't own it, can you be taxed for it being property? There's a lot of questions, and I think it's one of the things that makes this space so interesting. And so in that way, I'm an explorer, you know. I like to explore. I have a very high risk tolerance. I'm very open to new ideas. And so, you know, for somebody who's maybe a little more conservative, and for them, the scope of their interests is like, I just want to look at my wallet every day and it's the same thing and I don't want to do anything with it. I'm like, fantastic, fine for you, but I'm not going to talk poorly about you. If you're honest about that's really what you're in it for, right? If you're honest about that's what makes you happy, I'm gonna say, okay, great, do your thing, man.
But if you ask people why they are in crypto, I guess 99% will say number will go up and make some money, and that's the reason. And I mean, if you look at exchanges and what crypto was supposed to be, a peer-to-peer electronic cash, and now it's speculate on tokens, on coins, and make exchange owners rich and have the money in custodial wallets. I mean, it's a complete different way it all went, you know, and people are fine with it. I mean, that's just the reality of what it is these days, right?
Well, I find it interesting that you know, whether it's the Winklevoss twins or whether it's Brian Armstrong or Arthur Hayes or you know,
smiling all the time, huh?
any of the, but any of these exchange bosses, CZ, right? I always find it interesting how hard they try. They're such tryhards when it comes to the narrative, right? When it comes to the HODL narrative and all of that. And it's weird to see the Winklevoss twins talking about like, HODL, now's the time. HODL. And it's like, dude, you make all of your money off people not HODLing. If people HODL, you're broke, and you're not broke. So shut up. Like, and so I think people should think about that sometimes, right? They should think, who has gotten rich, right? Who has gotten rich, and what have they gotten rich from? Because CZ has certainly not, Binance doesn't succeed because they only have one coin that they will sell to. That's not why Binance has money. No. If those other coins didn't exist, Binance would have nothing. The same goes for Coinbase. If adding more coins and giving you the ability to switch between them didn't make them more money, they wouldn't do it. And so every time that they push off an ideology onto you, you have to think about it like this. You take a football league, right? Whether it's American football, whether it's soccer, you take those and you take the commissioner of that league. That commissioner is very, very happy to see the fans in the stands wearing one jersey and yelling for their team and all of that. And he's very happy to say, oh, yes, do it, do it, do it. And then the other team over here, he's going to say, oh, yes, do it, do it, do it. And this team, oh, yes, do it, do it, do it. Because you being against each other is what makes me money. You playing the fake game is what makes me money. And see, even the heads of the teams, there's a famous story when the Brooklyn Dodgers, the American baseball team, moved to Los Angeles. This was the first baseball team on the West Coast. Now, the Los Angeles Dodgers, of course, one of the most famous baseball teams, legendary baseball teams of all time, they had nobody to play. This is in an age when, you don't have very fast air travel and all of this. And so their rivals, the New York Giants, they convinced them to come to San Francisco to become the San Francisco Giants, which is where they are now, so that they would have a rival to play. And they brought the rivalry with them. And the idea was, if I've got no rival, I make no money. If I've got no rival, I make no money.
No money during lockdown.
And so part of this is to think about, where does your narrative come from and who benefits from your narrative? Do you benefit from as somebody who is a BTC fan? Do you really benefit from the Bcash narrative? Do I, as someone who works on Bitcoin Cash, do I really benefit from constantly knocking BTC and spending all of my time talking about, oh, their transactions, it's too expensive, and oh, they've ruined it all? Do I really benefit from that? Do I really?
I told Roger, in our interview, said, why do you keep bringing up BTC? Why do you keep pointing out that? I mean, let them do their thing and focus all your energy on Bitcoin Cash. And he understands the point, right? He's a very smart man, right? But he still feels like that that Bitcoin Cash has the same origins, really, and BTC hijacked, and he doesn't get over it. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but I don't think it's beneficial to the space, right?
Well, but it's beneficial to Roger, which is kind of the point that I'm trying to make, right? Because if
the rivalry,
if that rivalry was not there, Roger's personal brand, and this is no slight against Roger. I love Roger. I love him as a brother, right? I think that, ideologically, we're very much aligned. I believe that he, that his heart is truly in freedom and bringing more liberty to people. And he has been top to bottom.
Very passionate about this whole thing.
But also, regardless of the chain, he has put his money where his mouth is and allowed so many talented people to be able to spend all day working on Bitcoin. And I think that there are so many people who should be thankful to him about that. And who, if they don't appreciate him, regardless of what their relationship is with him now, I think that I think that's a real shame. But that all being said, Roger's personal brand is very much benefited by him continuing the rivalry with BTC. Very much benefited. And so he will continue that. He's got every incentive to continue it. Right?
I mean, BTC is number one, has the biggest market cap, has the biggest community. I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's his business. He can do whatever he wants, right? So, Vin,
yeah.
We've been talking for 1 hour already. I know you said you didn't have that much time, but let's finish this up with a little prediction about the future. What is needed to bring cryptocurrency to the masses? I mean, how do we go forward? How do we use the actual situation with the lockdown? What's happening? How can we get more people involved? What can we do as an individual to get more people on board and to make use of this situation so crypto prospers?
So it may actually be weird what I'm about to say. You may think that this is rather weird, but David Johnston, who is basically the main investor in Cointext, his VC firm Yeoman's Capital, along with some others. He's a very people should look him up. He's a very interesting character, very wise individual. He's actually the guy who coined the term dApps, decentralized apps. He's been involved in a lot of projects, and I was recently listening to an interview that he gave, I think back in December, where he was talking about starting to view these blockchains as technology stacks. That we have a lot of different networks now that have proven themselves over the years, that were not flashes in the pan. And I'm talking about the actual networks. I'm not talking about just like tokens that were released on ICOs, right? But we have networks that, you know, those of us who may have been rivals in the past and said, it's a scam and it's going to zero. These networks have proved themselves to not be that. So many of them have proved themselves to not be that. And so many of them have actually proven themselves to have some interesting difference and use case that's in there. And so I think that, and it kind of ties into your point, and I think that as a greater community, we're starting to turn the corner now. Maybe it's because some of us are getting a little bit older in this, you know?
I'm 40 as well, you know, time is flying.
Yeah. So we're, and we have children now, you know, which I didn't when I started in this Bitcoin thing. We're maturing. And I think that we need to start reaching out and seeing ourselves as potentially a much larger community, starting to see the things that are useful in these other networks. It doesn't mean that we have to give up our sort of first preferred, our first love, but seeing the places where some of these blockchains, particularly the proof of work blockchains, can integrate with each other and augment each other and add even more power. And it's just like, these networks are going to be there. There's communities around them. There's value in those communities. And we have tribalism, but perhaps to bring those tribes together in the ways that has happened throughout history, whether it's the Jews, whether it's the Germanic tribes, you know, to fight off the Romans, whether it's the Celts. In so many examples of history, you have these people who have been at each other's throats, but who in times of need, of a crisis, have been able to find that common ground with one another, work together to their shared strengths, and become a much greater whole. And I think that now is perhaps the time to start thinking that way, and to start setting aside some of the old grievances to sort of get to a new level. And then if we want to break apart again and go our tribal ways, let's do that. But let's see what we can do, because we're our best allies. We understand things, you know, BTC, BCH, BSV, it's all Bitcoin. And those of us who are OGs or who are old school, we all came from BTC. You know what I mean? I have love for BTC. I guarantee you, if they raise their block size to 4 megs tomorrow, I'm there. I'd probably exclusively work on BTC, and I've said this for years, right?
They won't do that. I think Luke Dash Jr. said they're gonna lower it again. They want to lower it. Talk about it.
So, but regardless of that, I think that we can be allies and get a lot farther than if we maintain sort of this silly tribalism. Let's do that at another time. Let's do that when times are good. But right now, just exactly like F2 Pools, you know, that Coinbase message saying basically that, you know, that the $2.3 trillion of printing dwarfs 2008. Yeah, 10 years later, now's our time. Let's go ahead and do this. Like, do we have to wait another 10 years, or can we get our stuff together right now?
I mean, I can see what's happening in Germany. People going on the streets, and the mainstream media is trying to portray those people standing up for their rights as conspiracy theorists or right wing or whatever. And they say, I mean, let's put that all aside. It's we, the people, against the government, whatever. And I mean, it's maybe this is the chance to bring people together in this whole situation where they see maybe a common enemy, if you can call the state an enemy, right? And the things that are happening, and maybe crypto can bring more freedom to the individuals. And I always tell people, it's like, I don't need to go on the street or whatever. I just need to use crypto and opt out of the old financial system. This is basically, for me, the biggest revolution which can happen. And the more people awaken to the fact that all the power comes from the control of money. And if we take our money away from that system, I mean, I'm sure not everyone, I know not everyone can just opt out and put all the money into crypto and live off crypto. It's not feasible. But take a little bit of money out of a bank and start getting into crypto and start opting out of the old system. That's why I like using cryptocurrencies, because if you use crypto, it means you're not using their thing. And this is their level, the power play, right? Money is controlling everything, and we see that the world is changing, and the money printing is not going to go unnoticed by the markets, and the consequences, they're going to be consequences, and people are waking up slowly, but they are. And I hope that we as a crypto community can get more people into this whole new paradigm that we're creating here, and start basically collaborating with each other in a local community. Maybe you on your island get people to, you said it's a little crypto thingy on your island. I mean, in Townsville, you see cities, and in a few spots in the world, you see cities in a local community popping up and exchanging services in crypto. And I think that's a great way to go into the future, get some people together, maybe start accepting crypto, start spending crypto with a few friends, and maybe this circle widens and more people get into it because they're sick of using the old and might join us in this new paradigm. And I hope that's what we can achieve in the next years.
I couldn't have said it better.
Today we can do this again. It was a great conversation. I mean, there are lots of more topics we can talk about.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to. Just when you feel like it, just let me know. I'm happy to come on and talk.
Awesome. Vin, thank you very much. You have a great day, and we'll keep in touch.